Well, I think one of the best came last for me personally. Remember when I talked about those log cabins that I wanted to stay in, and yesterday I actually realized there is somebody not far from home that's actually building houses like that. That's you. Yeah, you told me so last night. Maybe you've changed in the meantime, but that's Roy, and he's from Wilderness, and he's going to tell us about what he does with timber. Thank you very much, Roy.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm Roy Trembath. I founded and I run the SA Log Home Builders Association. And basically, I give 2-day courses on building log homes. And it's all based around simplicity, strength, something that everybody's able to do. We've got some pictures up here. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to use this thing. Where do we go? Okay. This is my own home in Wilderness Heights that my wife and myself built together. I have to say that because she was definitely part of the process, but it really was literally just the two of us that did everything. And that's what I teach my students to build. I'm trying to teach people something that is doable, hands-on, on the ground, that everybody's capable of doing. On the course, I get architects, engineers, farm laborers, you name it, and at the end of the day, everybody's capable after being on the course. Here, we use eucalyptus most of the time for all the construction. We cut our own floorboards, ceiling boards. I aim to make it as sustainable as possible. I did write a speech, but there's so many points that have been brought up here, my mind is boggled. Okay, one of my big aims, though, is, there's been a lot of talk about how do we solve a housing crisis in Africa or other parts of the world. And my solution, which I've been practicing for the last 12 years, is to educate people, teach people to build their own homes. Gives people a stake in society. They look after their own homes, I think, far better if they've built it themselves than if they get something that's constructed for them and handed to them. So my aim has been, I've had about 4,000 students now over the last 12 years. They're all over the world. And this is the workshop I built as well. It's a humble, small workshop. It does feature what I think is probably the largest piece of timber in any building in Africa, which is the ridgepole of that building is a 7 cubic meter piece of timber. It's about a 20-meter long thing. So in there, I've got a workshop which I use when I'm training, when I have apprentices. One half of that building is full of industrial woodwork equipment. And the rest of the time it's used for building projects. Let me just see, what else did I say? Yeah, so education to me is the key for the whole thing, and keep it simple. You use materials which are readily available. I know you guys have got all these amazing building systems like that, the Swatch building in Beale, it was to me, I thought, wow, that's really high-end. I don't do that. What we do is like on a very simple basis, it's accessible to everybody. So what I want to talk about now is a project which we finished last year, because I've also been doing a couple of apprentice training schemes, if you want to call it that. It's not about giving somebody a qualification, it's about giving them the abilities so they don't walk away with a certificate. I'm trying to create entrepreneurs because I also believe that entrepreneurs help to solve an unemployment crisis in the country. And I can see from people that I've had on my course, even if they don't build a log home, that's fine. They may pick up something else from the course. So one of the guys, as an example, went off and bought himself a small hand-operated sawmill. Got so busy cutting planks and selling them that he had to employ a couple of people. He had to buy another saw, a second one. Now he's got 3 small bush sawmills running. He's employing and feeding about 20 families, which to me is like it's an achievement for me. I feel if he's taken that away from my course and he's now feeding 20 families from his enterprise, that's something good. Okay, so now I've also looked at all you guys with your fancy software design systems, and I understand in these big buildings, yes, of course, and workflow and software. We don't do software. We do hardware design, and it works like this. This is the project now I'm going to talk you through. This is called Wallace's House, so it's also been known as Noah's Ark, and I'll explain in a minute why. This is actually one of my very first students' homes. We designed the house using wooden dowels. It's a practical, on-the-ground, hands-on type of construction, and it's done to scale. So if you want to make changes in the design, this is the time to do it, before you have a 3-ton log hanging up in the air. And when somebody is building, they can take a tape measure. It's generally done 25:1 scale. They can actually just measure the length of the rafter or the beam or whatever it happens to be, and multiply it by 25, and you have then the length. It's a very practical, hands-on way of designing, and then that is ultimately your plan. Obviously, we do get flat drawings drawn for submission to the municipality, but this is really what the guys work from when they're actually building the house. So, this was the beginning. We do use concrete foundations. I don't believe in putting wood into the ground. That chappie from who was on just now, he was talking about keeping timber off the ground, keep it dry. It's a basic principle. It helps with the preservation of the timber. So this is how it starts. These are the foundation blocks. The project, this was all done by students. So the owner of the house sent a couple of people on the course and got them to build the house for him. And it all started off nice and normally and well, all very basic principles. Things were progressing nicely. That's another one of them up there. It's a pretty heavy-duty kind of structure, kind of indestructible in a way, earthquake and hurricane resistant. On the, when was it? The 7th of July, 2017, we had the Knysna fires. Now, I live not far from there, and we get these winds called berg winds. They run fast, 100 kilometers an hour. The temperatures are high with these winds, 30 degrees C. And I remember that night, it was 30 degrees C at midnight with this 100 an hour wind, and it dries everything out incredibly fast. And this bushfire took off on the farm next door to Wallace's house. It tore through that site. I knew it was happening because it was all on the news early that morning. And funnily, the news crew had gone past the site with a helicopter and filmed. They'd been surveying the whole area, and this was, they actually had captions, subtitles under the, on the video, and I just happened to take a screenshot of that video as they went past, and I saw Wallace's house. Now, I'm not involved in the project at this stage, by the way. And I thought, hell, what's going to be left? And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures now. The pictures I'm going to show you are that building next door to the house. That's a shed. It's got a shipping container inside it. So anyway, after a couple of days, I decided I had to go to the site to go and see if there was anything left, because at this stage, the structure is a big open log structure. It's like a big pile of firewood, if you like. I'd expect it to burn. So I went out to the site, and blow me down, the thing was still there. We couldn't believe it, but there was actually no damage at all to the structure. It wasn't even scorched. And I'll get to that in a minute, why. or why I think, or we think it's like that. But to give you an idea of what it looked like on site there, under that shed, this was inside the shipping container. It had got so hot that the shipping container's roof had melted and caved in. I don't know what's the temperature you've got to reach for that to happen, but it gives you an idea. But I wanted to know, just for an idea, like how hot did it get on the site that morning? And literally, there was a concrete slab outside the shipping container, and this guy's chainsaw was a puddle of aluminium that had run across the concrete. Everything was gone. But what we have here is, this was real evidence of how hot it had got. And it's molten glass from windows that were stored about 10 meters away from the house. I happened to go to a glass factory a few months after that, and I was taken around the plant by some technicians and engineers, and I asked them, what temperature does window glass run like water? And they said 2,000 degrees. Incredibly hot. And that's what we had. We had puddles of glass that had run. And that tells you how hot it had been right next to that house. The fire had burnt around the house, underneath the house. So all of his equipment was destroyed. Any saw logs that he had on site, they were gone. And literally, they were logs. I know you guys spoke about this charring and it protecting the timber and everything. I have not seen that. There were 400 millimeter diameter logs that were waiting to go through the log saw. Gone. There wasn't even ash left. Big piles of them, completely destroyed. But the house logs are treated with borates. We do boron treatment. And I'd always been told that boron treatment was a fire retardant, but I didn't realize how good a fire retardant, because we found, on this site, we found what I call pipes. And what it was off-cut pieces of log where the sapwood, we're only aiming to treat the sapwood of the log with the borates. And I think this is quite an important point for all you guys, for fire protection of buildings. We found these pipes, so 400 mil diameter log, off-cut piece that was thrown on the side, and the hardwood, which is the untreated part, completely burnt out, and just that 30, 40 mils of sapwood was left behind. It was basically a pipe that was left behind lying on the ground. And I think a bit more research needs to be done into the fireproof properties of borates, because that is my favorite type of timber treatment by far. Okay, so what happened next? This is, for a year, there was this sense of despair. Wallace said he didn't come back to the building site for a year. He came back for the memorial service 1 year afterwards because his neighbors had died in the fire. And when he was coming up at that stage, he used to stay at my house, and I kind of I kicked his butt a little bit. And he's a clever guy. He plied me with whiskey, and by the time we'd finished, I had agreed to get involved and and complete the project. And I can tell you, there was no building contractor that would touch that. That thing is, at that stage, nobody wants to get involved in a half-built project like this. But luckily, I've got all the equipment from when I built my own house and my workshop, and I took it along. And so this is kind of a personal story. It's not going to be all technical, but it's difficult to find people that have got the right kind of experience to climb into a project like this and finish it. So my solution to that was that I would employ young guys, 20, 21 years old, guys that were keen to get out and get some practical hands-on experience of an actual log building. Guys that didn't have any preconceived ideas. So my solution was to take on a couple of apprentices, 3 or 4 guys that varied during the time, that would work hands-on. And I picked them out of my students from my courses that parents had said to me, listen, I'm trying to get him off the couch. Please, if there's a site that he can go and work on, get in touch with me. And that's exactly what I did. So the first thing, we had all the floorboards and ceiling boards, the sawn boards that they were busy drying on site when the fire happened. They were gone. They were absolutely disappeared. Now, the first thing we did was to get in and start sawing new floorboards. Now, the timber that we used for this, or that he got for this job, put it that way, it's called eucalyptus cladocalyx, or sugar gum. I can tell you that stuff is so hard you can't hit a nail into it. It's absolutely rock hard, but fantastic strength properties to it. It's a real engineering timber. You know, if you want a very strong beam, that is the thing to use. So typically we do air drying. It takes a long time to air dry. The floorboards are they're 50 mils thick by 150 mil wide, which eventually get machined tongue and groove. But it's got its very tight, dense grain structure. It takes forever for the planks to dry. So the very first thing we did on site was to start sawing new floorboards and ceiling boards. And then we had to get the guys into recovering in the structure that had been standing. See, the problem was that it had been standing out there for a year, exposed to the weather. And ultimately, boron-treated timber doesn't like too much persistent water, and so it's not good to let the structure stand for too long. I wanted to get a roof on it as quickly as we could. There was still some structural work to be done. So I took the apprentices through every single step of the project, on site, by hand, taught them scribe fitting, cutting the joints. This is not your 1 or 2 millimeter tolerance, precision engineered, CNC machined type work. This is far tighter tolerances than that. The idea is, here we are, I'll point you what we're doing here. So here's Tinus, one of the appies. He's chopping out that scribe fit joint. That's the finished product. Excuse me if the photos aren't that clear. It wasn't a photo shoot, it was a building site. So these were all taken with a cell phone. And then that's the idea, is to try to get the fit as tight as you possibly can. And it became like a matter of pride for the guys that were doing it to get the tightest fit. And once you generate that kind of enthusiasm and interest, then you don't need to be on the guy's back all the time. They will do it for the love of getting it, the pride of getting it fitting correctly. Of course, the next step was up onto the roof. The ceiling boards on these houses typically, we saw all of this timber ourselves, and they're typically 24 millimeter Saligna, or in this case, I think it was Saligna we used here, which is a eucalypt, 24 mil tongue and groove planks. There was about 3.5 kilometers of these boards on the roof. The guys climbed in. It's a lot of planks to lay, and they got right into it. Interesting, like the whole structure is built out of the sugar gum. And I'd gone to the nail suppliers, fastener suppliers here in George, our local town, and I bought the 28,000 ring shank nails that we needed for fastening the boards on. We couldn't hit a single one of them in because that blimmin' sugar gum is so hard. You'd have to drill a pilot hole. And I had to take them all back and go and buy steel nails, these concrete steel nails, those hard. Now, they work, but just saying, watch it. If you're going to build one of these, don't necessarily go for the hardest timber. But it is very durable. It's a very durable timber. So this is on a final day of getting the roof closed on top, which is always like a momentous and epic a day for celebration. The one to hit the final nail in to the top of the roof, he's the one who takes the cake. So this is the building when it was, now its roof was all ready, and after that we were just waiting for the roof sheeting to come. We put a vapor barrier, it's a 250 micron plastic sheet over the roof, and so at this stage now it's actually rainproof. It can rain, it doesn't matter, it's not going to It's not going to end up inside the house. And we put on a clip-lock roof, which is my favorite and recommended roof sheeting, a concealed fix sheet. And it goes on so quick. With, I think, 4 of us, we put the entire roof on in a single day. It's just so easy to use. And if you're ever choosing a roofing material, think about concealed fix sheeting, something like clip-lock. It simply can never leak. No maintenance, nothing. It's good. Okay, so then once we had the roof on, then I said, right, now we'll get back to the interior. And so these floor beams...
Roy, sorry that I have to interrupt you, but we are slowly running out of time. So unfortunately...
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'll do it quickly. These beams, they're about 300 millimeter diameter. They get machined. I'll have to speed up things a little bit. They get machined with a flat on top using a chainsaw. Basically, we want to get the floor absolutely level and flat. I believe in having, if a floor's got to be flat, then it's got to be flat. And we have a specific and easy way of doing that. The guys learned to build decks from start to finish. We had 2 different types of timber on site. There's sugar gum and Red River gum. So we decided to do a pinstripe deck for Wallace. We thought it'd be nice candy stripes, you know. Where are we here? Yeah, the next step was we did all the interior fixtures and fittings for the house as well. I don't believe in using chipboard for anything. Everything is done with solid wood joinery. All planks and materials we cut ourselves on site, and we season ourselves as well. Those are the middle picture, some kitchen cupboard doors they're making. Yeah, this is Tor, one of the apprentices. He's cutting some timber there. I'm not sure exactly what, but we had a lot of load shedding. Eskom power goes off, you can't work. I had to teach, so I got the guys right into doing a lot of stuff by hand. We do mortise and tenon joints for all the kitchen cupboards with dowels. We do drawer boxes are made with dovetail joints. The guys got so proud of their work. It was quite inspirational. They'd come into work early because they can't wait to get back to the project, and I really like to see that in people. You know, I feel I've achieved something then. So this is like a final look. This is kitchen. Came out absolutely beautiful. Blackwood worktops, and all the rest of it was made out of laminated Seligna planks. This was just a bathroom. The designs, we got no drawings. We sat down, the apprentices and I, and we designed what would work there, what would fit, and then they made it, and it was absolutely beautiful. It's inspirational. This is amazing. The staircase, spiral staircase that they built. This incorporated everything, laminating, wood turning for the spindles, bent lamination handrail. There is this side view of the thing. I'm very proud of them. The quite inspirational things that they came up with. This is just a picture of the inside. Outside, they did everything. Again, balustrades and the works, decking. There is a 2-minute video. If you say I'm out of time, I won't play the video. It's fine. I've got 1 slide left. Okay, so there you are, and that is the front of the house. And that was the project of Wallace's house. And I must say, it was a whole lot of fun. Log home building is the most fun that you can have that's still legal. Thank you very much.